Okay, the first thing that I want to talk about now that we've got our project Unit 2 Capstone CSS thing open is I want to show you how you can create a new file in here, and I'll show you both how you can create a new CSS file as well as a new HTML file. So first thing that you're going to notice, and this is one of those things that is a little confusing because brackets is something that is just sort of bare bones, and then you use plugins to extend the heck out of it. Um, it doesn't come with something that generates templates automatically. So for instance, if I go up here and I say File New, this is what it does. It gives me something. There's no color coding, you see. Even if I were to type in, HTML and like that, it doesn't give me any color coding because it doesn't understand that this is an HTML file. It thinks of this right now as a text file. And you'll see over here it looks like a little text file icon and it says Untitled 1 because I haven't done anything to change it. And so one of the things that's super nice about using a tool like CodePen is that it already puts that required structure there for you, like that HTML required structure that's the HTML tags, and then inside of that you've got your head and your title, and then inside you've also got the body tags and so on, right? Well, we need to go find an extension that's going to provide a template for us. So if you come over here to this little Lego icon and click on it, we're going to let it load, and it should load up here to the available tab. And in the search tool, I want you to type HTML templates and put the S at the end because you're going to get the same search results as I do if you put this as a plural. And at the time of me doing this recording, the second hit is HTML templates updated by Scott Graneman. And this is a good one, and I've used this with a lot of success. So let's go ahead and click on install, and it should install it successfully. If it doesn't, then you might need to reload brackets and then try it again. So I'll go ahead and close these out. And now what I can do is I can go up here to edit, and I should be able to scroll down and find at the very bottom this thing that says HTML templates. And if I click on that, it'll pop up and it'll ask me, which template I want. I would choose HTML5. That's the framework I want. And automatically it puts this structure in here. You'll notice that there's still no color coding because off to the left it still is identifying this as a text file. That's because I have not saved it. I need to save it with the file extension of .html. So we'll go up here to File and we'll do Save. And I'm going to just, for right now, I'm going to save this as test.html. And you have to have that .html, otherwise it won't understand the file type. And you see right now that it goes into color-coded page, and it put it down here at the bottom inside my Unit 2 Capstone project folder. You can see it's right here, but also it's currently open because I'm editing it. Now, that being said, you don't have to have this in your Unit 2 Capstone file. All you've got to do is have this index file and a style sheet that's going to style it. But I wanted to show you for the future how you can create additional web pages that are HTML pages inside of a project folder using brackets. But the other reason that I wanted to show you this, that there's a little bit of a benefit, is that it also comes with a CSS external style sheet link. Now this is something that we haven't had to deal with CodePen, because in CodePen it just kind of does everything for you, right? It hides all of this other stuff from you because all it's doing is it's showing you the HTML part right here that's inside of the body tag. So all you ever see is what's in the body tag. You don't actually even see the body tag itself. And the other thing is that if you have done all the practice lessons, which you should have if you're doing this assignment, then you don't even see the way that it links the CSS. You just start typing the CSS and it automatically links it for you. Well, we're not using CodePen now, we're using brackets, and I want you to see kind of like the wizard behind the screen, right? I want you to see where the magic is done so that you actually understand how it works. So inside of an HTML file, typically, not always, but typically, the style sheet, if it's going to be an external style sheet, meaning that it's literally a physically separate page, that is a .css file, which we do not have yet. It will be joined up inside of the HTML page using this tag of link. And it has to have these two things. It has to have the rel attribute with the value of Stylesheet. Has to have that. It also has to have the href attribute or the hyperreference attribute with the value of whatever the actual pathway is to that style sheet. Okay. If you don't have the relationship, the rel attribute set to style sheet, then it's not going to understand that it's actually a style sheet and it will not load the styles. If you do not have the href, it's not going to know where to go find those external styles. Okay, so these two things are critically important attributes and values for the link tag. The link tag almost always will go up inside of the parent head document. Not always, but almost always. All right, that's traditionally the place that you would find it. Okay, and you have to load the style sheet before you can actually start using the styles anywhere, just so you understand that, right? Okay, that being said, if you wanted, you could either select this and copy it, okay? Or you can just watch me type it in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and jump back over here to index. Right now, we don't actually have a style sheet created, and you'll see that inside of my project folder, I don't have a CSS file yet. Okay, so first thing I want to do is let's go ahead and create a CSS file. Okay, so I'm going to go File, New, and for this you don't have to have a template. CSS files do not require any form of template at all. I'm just going to go ahead and do File, Save, and we're going to call this Style. Let's call it Styles with an S, I guess, .css. And I'm going to save it inside my root level folder, my Unit 2 Capstone folder. Just click Save. And then you see right off to the left, it shows me that I'm currently working on styles.css, and down here in the bottom, it shows me that inside of my Unit 2 Capstone folder, my project folder, I have styles.css. All right, I have nothing in it yet, but now that it sees that it's a .css file, as I type my styles, it will actually color code them properly. All right, so let's do something really quickly. Let's go ahead and say body, and let's give it just like a background color, okay? And you'll see that it also has code hinting, and if you set everything up, you know, as the standard way, then it should automatically start doing this stuff. So you could either do background as shorthand, or you could do background color. Either way is up to you. And then it automatically, this is kind of nice with brackets, it automatically starts to give you values to choose from that are the name-based colors. So if you wanted, let's just say you wanted to choose the background as aquamarine, all right, and then you would just terminate that. What's kind of cool now is if I come over here and I hover it, it shows me that color, and if I right click it, it'll allow me to do a quick edit, and then it can use a color picker. This is something that's a little bit nicer than, say, CodePen, and so you can start to decide. For a lot of these, you can start to decide if you want to be developing in CodePen or in this, and they both have their own advantages and disadvantages. Okay, but this is something that's important that you kind of understand, that HTML is not something that is, you know, a brackets file, and it's not a CodePen file, and it's not a Dreamweaver file. HTML is HTML. These other things, they're all just tools that allow you to edit them. That's it. It's not like a Photoshop document where only Photoshop can edit that document. All right, it's not like that at all. All right, HTML is a form of text, but it is technically considered HTML type of text. Okay. Anyhow, so I could pick any color here. Let's just say that I'm going to pick some other color, like that color. All right, and it shows me what the hexadecimal value is, right? And then I can go ahead and commit to that and shut this little X off, and you can see that it updated the background color. Now, I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now, one of the things that you're going to notice is if I go over here to HTML, my index file, I want to show you something. There's this cool little lightning bolt over here that gives me a live preview, and it shows me my live preview. Well, the problem is that I don't see that color background. Well, the reason for that is that I have not yet linked my HTML up in the head to my styles.css file. I haven't done that yet. So this is where, if you wanted, inside of the head of your index.html file for your Capstone 2, oh, and by the way, I want to change where it says Unit 1 to Unit 2, Capstone CSS personal page, okay, so that we know we're working on the right thing. All right, after that title, I'm going to come down here, I'm going to drop down to the next line, and I'm going to paste that link that I had before, and it was link rel style sheet href equals css / main.css. Now, you'll notice that our CSS page is not called main.css, nor is it inside of a CSS folder. It's just called styles.css, and it is just floating around inside the root level Unit 2 Capstone directory. Okay, so that means that in the index.html file, if you copied and pasted that link information, what you would have to do is you'd have to change the pathway of this href. So I'm just going to delete that. And if you remember back to what I said, that if a file or a folder is in the same directory as the file that you're currently working on, and in this case it's index.html that I'm currently working on, and I'm looking for styles.css, well, if that's the case, then all I need to do is call out the name of the file I'm looking for, because it's like they're sitting in the same room together and they can hear each other talking to each other. So I'm just going to type styles.css like that. And you see automatically it started popping up right here. Like as I started typing it, it automatically, whenever I put my cursor in there to start typing, if I start just typing a letter, automatically it pops right up because it sees that that is an available file for me to link to. So I'll go ahead, and if I click on it, it puts it in there for me. The advantage of that is that I don't accidentally misspell it when I'm typing it. And so that's something that's actually quite. And if I go ahead and I save that now, and I go back to my little lightning bolt, I don't have to click on it again. I can just come over here and you see that it's a live preview. It automatically updated that background color for me. All right, now all of the principles that you've already learned, doing your code pen practices, all of that stuff still applies in terms of like how you write your rules and your CSS and all of that. It all still applies. All right, but the difference is that you're just using a different tool now to edit. And the way that brackets works with this little lightning bolt is if I click it again, see how if I hover it says disconnect live preview. If I click it, you'll notice that it says live development session has ended. Okay, so now if the other thing I want you to pay attention to is up here. It says 127.0.0.1 : and it's got some number / index.html. When you see anything ever that says up in the URL 127.0.0.1, what that is it's called a loopback address, and it means that there's a little mini web service that is running on your computer as part of some sort of application. It either means that or it means something else that's far more advanced, but for what you're doing, that's what it's going to mean. It means that Brackets has its own little sort of fake little mini web service, like a web server, and it's running so that it can do this live preview for you as a test as you are constantly making edits here. And it does this 127.0.0.1. That is really important to know, because whenever you see this number up in the URL, it definitely means that you're working locally on your computer, and it also means that you're working through Brackets. If you think that for some reason you're looking at what's on the server and you see this number, then I guarantee it's not what's actually on your server space on the mat server. Okay, I want you to understand that. That means that you're running the little web service. It's like through live preview and Brackets. All right, now let's come back over here, and I'm going to kind of go back over this again. I'll just delete this. All right, and let's go back through this and let's type it out, because you also need to remember how to do this stuff with typing. So to link to an external style sheet, you want to type the beginning opening brace like this, and the name of the tag is called link, and then as I start typing, you see these code hints pop up. And so you could say, okay, well, I want to link, and it basically means you're linking two files together to grab information from it and load it up, right? So I'm loading all those styles into this HTML file. So I can now scroll down to link and hit enter, and it automatically completes that for me. Then I would hit a space because I need an attribute. And so an attribute that I'd want is the relationship. So I could start going, well, wait, what is it? It's the relationship. Maybe I'll type R. Oh, look, I get some options. I get REL. That's the thing that makes sense for relationship, right? And then what's nice with brackets is that it does this auto completion where it does the equal signs and the double quotes, and it puts your cursor in the right spot so you can just start typing. Well, the relationship is that it's a style sheet, this thing. So I can just start to type style sheet, and then there it pops up, and I can click enter. Now I need another attribute, so that means that I have to separate it again with a space. Okay, and then that attribute, if you remember, is the hyperreference, where to go find that file. So that would be the href attribute. Okay, just sort of, it's similar to like in an A tag, right? An anchor link, whenever you have to have an href and it goes to find that resource. Well, this is similar, except that instead of it being an A tag, it's a link tag that is going to link two resources together. So anyway, we're going to find href, and then see automatically with href it says, hey, do you want to look inside of your relative pathways? Let's look inside your project folder. And I can go, yep, styles.css, that's the one I want. And then link is one of those tags that is considered to be self-closing, and so I can go ahead and close the thing myself. Okay, it doesn't require any other kind of ending link tag. It just is a self-closing, or also referred to technically as an empty element. I hate that though. Anyway, it's self-closing tag. And so that is going to link those two assets together. So you can either type it, or if you can't remember and you just really, you need some help, right, then what you can do is you can go create some dummy HTML file using that template starter that I showed you, that little plugin, and it'll automatically generate a dummy link for you for some CSS, and then you can just copy that and paste it, and then of course you would have to change this pathway so that it is the correct pathway to whatever you need. Because I don't need this file, I'm going to close that test file. I don't want to save it. And furthermore, I actually don't need it at all inside of my project folder. So I'm going to right click test HTML, and I'm going to hit delete. And I'm going to delete that because I don't need it. All right. So now here's the thing. So I've got my HTML right here, and similarly as it is in CodePen, you've also got your CSS, but the thing is I can't see them both at the same time. So one of the things that I can do is I can go up here to this thing that's for splitting the view, and I can say split view, and I can do vertical split or I can do horizontal split, and it's really up to you which one you prefer. And so if you do a vertical split, let's say that I like to always put my index, or excuse me, my HTML on the left. That's just the way I prefer it, and my CSS on the right. You might like it differently, but whenever you have something in focus and you go into split view, it should put it on the left. And then where it says over here, open a file with this plane when this pane has focus. So you want to click over here somewhere, right, so that it currently is selected, or meaning that it has focus in the application. All right, and then you'd want to come over to the left side, and you not right click, you just click down in the bottom where your project files are. You just click it while this other pane has focus, and it opens that up for you so that you can look at it. And then once you start to make edits, it should pop up here if it's not already open. All right, and so now you can see stuff side by side, which is kind of nice. You can always change this to horizontal view if you prefer that. If you think that's easier to see, easier to read, it's really up to you. If you've got a lot of long HTML, this might be preferable. Now, the one thing that you're not going to get with this is you're not going to get a third view with a display the way that you did in CodePen. Instead, what you would have is something like this. And I'm going to go ahead and let me close out of that. Okay, so now what I can do is I can just go up here to my live preview, and it automatically goes into my live preview mode. Now, one of the things that you're going to notice is you might go, wait, I don't remember my color being that blue. Um, so you might need to check something in if you've got if you have something highlighted, like see like right here, I've got my image highlighted. What it's going to want to do is highlight something in blue. This is confusing because my background color is a blue color. So if I were to go here and let's just edit this. If I go down into my CSS and I hover, I can right click and say quick edit. And let's just change that to some other color for right now. Let's just do, I don't know, some kind of pink or something so that it's easy to see. All right, and then I'll close that. Now if I were to highlight something like a list item, let's close this up even more and we'll move this over. Here, let's collapse this a bit. So now we can get some side-by-side viewing. If I were to go down in my HTML and I select a list item, you notice that over here, for a split second, it sort of highlights in blue the item that is selected so that you can see, if you take a look as I click on different things, you can see that it's showing what is selected, okay? How the element is selected. All right, that's kind of nice. And then the other thing too is that if I wanted to make some changes, instead of saying, hi, I'm Lee Kotner, you could say, hi, I am Lee Kotner, for instance. As I start typing this, you see that it automatically also gives you a live preview, and you can see it there as well, which is also really handy. And that is very similar to the way that it works in CodePen, right? And so you can see how similar these interfaces are, and this is going to be true of a lot of different applications, whether the application is something like Brackets where you download and install it on your computer, or whether it's something like CodePen where it's a web-based subscription editor. Anyway, you get the idea. They're very similar, and I want you to have the flexibility of understanding that HTML and CSS files are not tied to any particular application or vendor, you know, like Adobe or something like that. Those kinds of files are universal, and all of these other applications just open them and give you the ability to edit them. Okay, they're not proprietary at all. Okay, anyway, so that'll help get you started, and then you'll see, you know, as you decide to go and make some styles, you know, like for instance, if you wanted to go here and say font dash family, right, you could say like Arial, right? I don't really want you to use Arial. I'm just showing you as an example how this live preview works really well. And whatever you do, don't forget to save it. Now, here's one thing that, oh, and I would actually do a fallback. So, and see, it automatically finds sans serif for me. One thing that I will warn you about that Brackets is not good about doing is it's not good about reminding you to terminate things, right? See how this is automatically looking correct, but I haven't put a semicolon here. I need to put that semicolon, otherwise that could really throw off the rest of my code. And the thing is that in Brackets, a lot of times, whenever you start typing other stuff, it doesn't necessarily prevent other things from working the way that it would like in a real browser. So that can be a little bit confusing, and I want to make sure that you're aware of these kinds of things, like the terminator is something you've got to remember to type whenever you're using Brackets. The thing that's nice about CodePen is that there's like a little button up in the top right of each HTML and CSS and JavaScript window that you can click, and you can like validate your HTML, or you can look for errors and it'll help you find things like that. It'll help you find errors in your CSS. Brackets, if you look down at the bottom, it'll show you maybe where some errors are, but you know, without this terminator, if it doesn't show you an error and you're not used to looking for that kind of stuff, and you can't figure out why it's not working because Brackets it looks okay, but then on the server it doesn't, then that might be a little bit confusing to you. So I just want you to be aware of that, and I also want you to feel free to ask me to give you help or advice. Now, because this is not in CodePen, you can't just send me like your CodePen link, right? And so that I can see your code. What you would have to do if you need help is you have to upload all of your files to the server into your server space, which I showed you how to do for your last assignment. So you'd upload your whole project 2 folder, or your whole unit 2 Capstone folder to your student server space, and then email me with your question and say, hey, by the way, I put it up on the server, you know, go check it out. Here's my link or whatever. All right. That's really important, because if I can't see all of your files in the environment that they should be in, which is the main root level directory, then there's a very good chance I won't be able to help you, especially if it's something like you have an incorrect link, or you've got something misspelled where two files are linking together. I'm not going to be able to tell if you don't have all that stuff uploaded on the server. Okay. All right, that's going to do it. This should get you started so that you can do your second unit, or your Unit 2 capstone project.